Uta. All right. So I wanted to talk about the sort of transition from the podcast into the sales conversation because I think a lot of people are missing that piece of the puzzle because they're doing the podcast really well and they're making it happen. But how are we taking that conversation and turning it into either a referral partnership or we're actually, closing a deal from it? Because I think a lot of times when we bring people on to have a conversation, it's a natural progression into whatever it is that person can help with. For instance, we have 100% success rate from podcast to either a sales conversation, right? Or a help conversation where we're like, hey, this is what we do, this is how we help. If it's a referral partnership, then they have a route. And then if it's a sales conversation, then they have like a journey. So question for you guys is when you guys are doing I know Abizer's doing the podcast, Bonnie's not doing a podcast right now, but we can talk about sales in particular. You're doing business development, Bonnie?
Yes.
Okay. So talk to me about like the sales process for you and how people are finding you.
So I have a few ways people are finding me. I do a lot of networking at the Chamber of Commerce and several other business associations. So I get referrals from that. I'm very well optimized in Google with SEO and thereby ChatGPT as well, because ChatGPT kind of uses the Google results. And so I'm getting referrals from ChatGPT and Google,
Nice.
and then just natural word of mouth referrals. So networking, online search, and word of mouth referrals are the main ways.
How many touch points do you think it's taking for a prospect to become a client?
It's taken a lot more than it used to be. It used to take just maybe three or four.
Hmm.
Now I'm seeing maybe 7 to 12
Yeah.
touches just to get a breakthrough with a meeting.
What do the touches look like for you?
An email, LinkedIn connection request, a phone call, and a postcard in the mail. I'll do that sequence about 3 or 4 times over before I can get the breakthrough that I need. And a lot of times it's a matter of reaching the right person and doing the digging necessary to find the decision maker. Because sometimes you're reaching out over and over again, but it's to the wrong person
Mm. Meaning like the person that can actually pay.
that can pay or make the decision to move forward.
Right. So is this automated?
Yeah, some of it is. I do have a tool that I use to do the LinkedIn connection request, followed up by a couple of DMs. And I'm getting a couple of appointments from that every week. And then I have a system that also sends emails out.
Gotcha. How long is the sales conversation?
So typically about an hour. They'll book it on my Calendly, and then that'll last about 30 minutes to an hour. Then I'll follow up with the proposal.
What are you using for proposal software?
So I don't have a software. I just use a Word doc and then turn into a PDF.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, keep it simple.
That's cool.
How about you?
So I've been using PandaDoc.
Oh yeah, I heard of this.
I sent it out today. It's just for me, it's such an easy way to keep track. I'll log in and I'll kind of show you guys what it's like, template wise, because we've got several offers, and I'll show you guys what I mean. I just really love the look of it
Yes.
because like, so we have the consulting packages, we have the done for you packages. When I'm hiring subcontractors, I have job offers. So when I'm like doing videographers in different cities, so for instance, I have a couple of masterminds coming up where I need to hire videographers. Like I have them here and I just send them, I send them the document. It's all right there for me. Let me see where it is. I'll show you guys. Oh, this is a template. Sorry. Let's go to the documents. So I sent out this proposal today for an estate planning attorney, Polly Tatum, who lives in Massachusetts. And she wanted to know about our client journey videos. She wanted to know about our legacy video package. And she wanted to know about our like not podcast package, but where did it go? Our Start Now package, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you click on one of them, you can design it however you like. There's the Start Now package. You have the cover letter. You have your thank you video that they can click on. It goes right there, right? What their problems are, what the work date is, why they want to choose us. And then for me, like the examples of our work are super important here too, right? So they can kind of see,
You driving, Ashley?
And then client testimonials, what they
We hired Leduc Entertainment 6 months ago to help us out with some of our social media.
And then right here, you can put your scope of work, terms and pricing. What I do is I put my a la carte pricing here, and then so that they can kind of see. And I think I was telling you guys the last time is that when part of our issue when we were kind of bundling everything up, they didn't really understand what everything was and what the cost was per sort of offer, right? Like if we're doing content development and branding, like that costs money. And we were so totally undervaluing it, right? So now they know, hey, this is how much that costs. Then a full day of production, how much that costs. Then airfare accommodations and how much that costs, right? So boom. And they know that if they do the 6 month commitment, they're going to get it for 4,000. And then every month after that, they get 10 videos for 2,500, right? So I can send this out and rock and roll very, very quickly. Where before I would have to like go, all right, let me figure out what we're doing here. And, does so-and-so know what our pricing is? So now Dean can send it out, Will can send it out. Any of my salespeople can send out a package in like 3 to 5 seconds. They put in all of their information. And this is an embedded partnership that we're going to do with Polly, where she's going to offer our legacy videos to her clients as part of her package. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend using, PandaDoc as a proposal software because they can see like videos in there. They can also see testimonials of people, that have worked with you, and it makes it super easy to send that out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we've been doing to like really good results. And then you can also kind of go in and check monthly on like um things that are won, so you can see how many proposals you're sending out on a monthly basis for your data, right? And then your subcontractor agreements, right? This is, it's all right here.
That's very streamlined,
I love it.
and
Like I love it.
the
And
pricing is very reasonable too.
yeah. So we're trying to keep it that way so that we can, kind of help move the process along, right? Because like we can always upsell later. And I think a lot of times people, because they have a bunch of different offers, they get caught up with, oh, what am I selling and how am I selling it? Like, how many offers do you have right now, Bonnie?
Um, so I have a couple of departments here. I typically have 3 offers per service.
Which is,
So I have 3 departments. One small business marketing, one is feasibility studies and market research, and one is the Speakers Bureau, which is just getting started this year.
gotcha.
And for the small business marketing, I typically do 1,000, 2,500, and 7,500 are the
Nice.
packages there. And for the feasibility study, 10,000, 25,000, and 50,000.
Nice.
Mhm.
So I was reminded it's always good to come to eight-figure firm because like they really got this thing dialed in, right? As far as like how to scale. And it's not just for law firms, but it's for business in general, right? And how do we make it so that it's a duplicatable process, right? Because if it's not a duplicatable process, you can't scale it.
Right.
And I think that that was our sticking point in our sales is that it was always, all right, Armando, I've got somebody on the hook. Now what? Now what? Now what? And they'd have to ask me questions. And so I went in Becky, I was just showing them about PandaDoc and I'll send you, it's okay. I'll send you the recording, but with PandaDoc, and I highly recommend you guys do this, right? Is figure out what your offer is, each and every single thing that you do, a la carte, price it and go, this like web design, it's this. SEO, it's this. This is this, right? And give them like what it would cost them a la carte. And then when you bring them into a 6-month or 12-month discount, that's where they see the value, right? And I got this from the book, $100 million offers from Alex Hormozy. You got to make it so easy for them to say yes. Got to make it easy for them to say yes, right? If it's complicated for them to understand, if it's not streamlined, if it's like, wait, what am I getting? And if they don't see the value in it, they're just not going to pull the trigger. So what we found is we're like, well, look, you guys are getting this, this, this. You're stacking it, stacking it, stacking it with value. Then we hit them with the 6-month discount. They're ready to go. And I know people are like, well, I don't offer discounts. Be like, well, I would highly recommend you do, especially if you're on a monthly recurring revenue model, right? Which is for me the only way you can scale a business.
Right.
Well, it's a package. That's what you're selling him, is a package which has a discount in it.
Correct. Yeah. And well, the package, not necessarily like if they were going to buy the package as a one-off, I'd give them the a la carte pricing. But if they're going to commit for 6 months to a year, then I'm going to give them the discount because they're staying with me for 6 months and a year, right?
Well, and it's really a retainer. I mean, they're retaining you, right, in your
100%.
services.
Yeah. So making sure that that's happening. So we were talking about, how many touch points it takes to get somebody across the line. And I'll send you guys this too, but I put together, and I think I sent this to you guys before. Tell me if I'm repeating myself. But when you're looking at your offers and you're looking at your follow-up strategy, do you guys have that planned out somewhere? Yeah? Where does it live? You don't have it, Becky? Bonnie, where does it live for you?
In SharePoint.
SharePoint?
Yeah,
What's that?
it's kind of like Google Docs.
Okay. And so what can you share with me what some of those touch points are?
So the first one is a discovery call.
Okay.
And then they're in the funnel, if you will. And then they're in line to receive our monthly newsletter, so we can stay top of mind if they didn't become a client already after the first engagement. And then we make sure we're connected to them on LinkedIn, and we encourage them to follow our company pages. And that's part of it. And then thereafter, it's a matter of sending a piece of value, a value add content once a week to their email directly until they're ready to move forward or they tell me that they've done something else. Meanwhile, they're still receiving the newsletter and everything.
Okay. And the newsletter goes out weekly?
It doesn't. It goes out once a month. I probably should do weekly, but I just haven't put the work in to make it happen.
Yeah, no worries. It happens.
Mhm.
So I'll share with you guys. Becky, you say you haven't planned it out.
I'm my business is really simple, and I'm working on the SOPs right now, so I can really tighten up that. But the follow up, that's where I'm really falling through, is because I'm falling down over it, because these attorneys are really, my experience has been very difficult to get a hold of them and get them on the call, like, and getting them through that.
Did
But
you use your
yes,
podcast?
the what?
Have you used your podcast?
Yes, but I've only interviewed, I think, two attorneys. One of them I actually gave business to yesterday, so he's going to be a little bit more like, hey, you know. Um, Actually, I've done two attorneys. One last week. I don't know if he's a full blown, but I would like to cycle back with him. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm working on all of that, and I want to tighten it real tight, because if I'm going to go big, it needs to have all those processes really
Then, yeah,
automated.
for sure. I think, revenue coming in can help you pretty much do whatever it is that you want to do, right? If you have enough revenue coming in, you can hire whoever you need. And so that's been sort of our focus here. And I'll share you guys what our system is for like bringing people through the pipeline to actually get them to respond. Because if you're getting ghosted, it's probably because of how you're doing your follow-ups. So let me share this part right here. We use Playbook Builder as our playbook software. I love it. I can't say enough good things about this software. So right here, you can have all of your playbooks, as you can see, from sales and marketing to operations to HR, right? And then everything in here kind of lives wherever it is you need it to be. So for instance, marketing for us, our different marketing channels, our offers, what content for Leduc looks like, for content into clients, what that looks like, content for my personal brand, my 5-day challenges, book writing process, blah, 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 blah.
So
Right.
is that an SOP? Is that track all your SOPs?
Correct. This is SOPs for these things on how we do that.
Okay.
So our sales journey is obviously the prospecting, right? Where are we finding our clients? Which for us is easy because we're working with attorneys, right? So the cold attorney outreach, you can put in here like, okay, where the lawyer lists at, prospecting links, legal podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
conferences, Google My Business pages of digital marketing companies, because we know those people are spending money. The LA State Bar, Best Lawyers of America is a really good one. And then inviting admins from Facebook groups that we want to be a part of, right? So personal injury Facebook groups, family law Facebook groups, estate planning Facebook groups, and then inviting those admins because they're going to share your podcast with their group,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's our prospecting. This is our first invite phase, what they're getting. And everybody goes through our podcast, right? Like without a doubt, 100%, like we have them go through the podcast. One, because we get to learn who they
You're
are.
vetting them.
Two, we're creating content. Three, it's branding for us, right? Four, it's helping us have that quality time with them so that they can experience what it's like working with us before they work with us, right? So that's the first invite phase. When it's podcast booked, this is a whole process for that. What the podcast recording workflow is. And so this is where I would say I think people are probably leaving money on the table, is because they may not be going live with their podcast. And I think that's a huge mistake. And I love that Abizer just came in and he was like, whatever you guys tell me to do, I'm going to do 100%. Abizer, what have your thoughts been on that?
It's always what you said, right? You just got to do it. As ridiculous as it sounds, right? But it is just that simple. And my journey has been, trying to get it right and looking good. and now my journey is getting my heart in it, right? So I've noticed the last couple ones have been stoic. Some people that I know already, it's really a fun banter, and with other people, I something I get caught up inside of, just trying to get it right or whatever.
Yeah.
Presentable, I guess is the word I would use, right? Like, and so that takes away from the presentability. So it's just a journey, and you just got to keep going. So
I love it.
I think that's key.
Valid, and all of the head trash as to why we don't do it. But, this mastermind specifically, is geared towards people that have a podcast, because I think it's the most valuable thing that you can be doing in your business to increase revenue, to build brand, and the whole nine. But I would say going live, best thing to do. Make sure you're getting their social media to follow them. Making sure that the producer is going to be contacting them after the fact, so that they can expect emails from them. Rapid fire questions at the end are fun to do. And then making sure that you set up the sales call before you get off the podcast, right? So end the podcast and then roll into, hey, Becky, that was so much fun. Do you have some time next week? Would love to get on a call with you, talk about how we could collaborate. And Becky's going to say, yeah, of course. 2:00 on Wednesday sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Right. And then
That's
make sure you guys.
that's the key right there, right? The follow up instead of just saying hi. And so let me ask you a question real quick. Because I'm just I want to do 20 episodes before I go live, just because I have them in the docket and we're working on branding and all that stuff. I've got about 10 right now, but what's the advantage of you seeing the live versus the recorded?
Because the recorded is, they're just sitting there. Like, recorded is just sitting there. If you go live, it's out. It's done.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Put it out. Like, what do you, it's for me, it's just more work sitting and trying to go backwards to try and figure out which videos we need to put out. There's a lot of editing taking place. Now,
Right.
in the meantime, you've only spoken to 20 people. When if you go live, you can talk to 60, 80,
Right.
100 people very quickly, right? But if you're editing that stuff, it's just it just makes it too cumbersome. And that's another reason why people don't do the podcast, because they're all like, oh, this and this and this and this. What's up, Kevin? So we're just talking about.
If I can add to that,
Yep.
Armando, if I can add to that real quick, that was one of my hangups early on, is I wanted it professionally done, edited, all of that. And what I'm noticing is I think I'm about 11 or 12 episodes in now. And people tell me, yeah, great job. I'm glad you're podcasting and all that. They, watch like 10 seconds of it. So it's not even like, but it's just the fact that I'm going to podcast that's me top of mind with them. I don't think half the people even listen, right? Some people do, right? But not everybody even listens. It's just out there getting the name out there. And that's what Armando's been saying forever. And I didn't believe him until I did it, frankly. And now that's what people are saying. So, I mean, you said it all along, Armando, right? No one cares. No one's listening. It's the fact that you're out there. So that
You're doing
put
it.
in
You're
my
doing it
words.
straight through StreamYard, straight to YouTube, right? Because I want to do all the audio ones as well. I want to rip the audios and put them out.
Yeah. But once
Yeah,
they're out
yeah.
there, then they're done, and then you can just put them on Spotify for podcasters and roll out. Like,
Right.
it doesn't need to be like too thought out, especially at first too, right? When you're like, I think people are trying to be perfect, and what happens in the meantime is we're trying to increase revenue.
Right.
I mean, like, revenue is where it's at, and the more people you talk to, the more money you're gonna make. Like, it's just
Right.
a law of averages, right?
They
So
can't flow you if they don't know you.
100%.
I
100%.
like it.
The
I'm
one
always saying
thing,
where it flows, I go, right?
the one thing I might add to that is that, if there's some happy middle ground, maybe happy middle ground is you get them out there live, and then you can use like Adobe Rush, or StreamYard's got their AI clip tool, which there's a good clip or two that come out of that, but you can use like Adobe Rush or some other tool to just take out a minute or two of it if you like it, certain section, and then post that separately later if you want.
Right.
Here's something that you guys have to think about too, is if you want to like speed create the brand, you've got to get these podcasts out there because people are not going to want to come on the podcast if they don't think it's an established podcast.
Right.
Right? So you're sitting there on these podcasts going, all right, I'll get them out eventually. It's like, get them out immediately, right? Because the quicker you can do that, the fact that I had Ken Hardison and, and Bob Simon and Lewis Scott and Jen Gore and all of that helps create the social currency that I need to invite more people onto the podcast so that they say, yeah, I would want to, right? People come onto Kevin's podcast because he has an established brand, right? They may not know Array Digital, but they know Ken Hardison, they know all of these people, they know that you're associated with them. Now getting them into a sales conversation is going to be 100 times easier, right?
Yeah.
Because you're already borrowing the social currency of the person that's coming to the podcast. But it's
By the
not,
way, Kevin, I see your stuff on LinkedIn all the time.
yeah,
So
Thank you. Appreciate that. I was gonna say, backtracking, when we first started, we did it really bootstrap. For one, we started going live, like Armando was saying. When we started the podcast, it wasn't even a podcast. We had cheap mic. We didn't have the audio part figured out on like real podcasting. It was just
Yep.
Facebook stream, and that was it. And then we called it a podcast. And then we started to kind of get better with production and editing and shit like that. But I think once you establish the brand, having more polished and inviting the best guests in the world, and
I don't actually ever edit. I've never edited any of the shows I've ever done. I just feel like whatever's out there is what's supposed to be out there. It's
Right.
This is the first time that I've actually branded like the shorts and the cut, you know what I mean, and all of that kind of thing going out there. But you can always do it afterwards. I can do it afterwards, I should say. And I think maybe that is my answer, that I just need to go live and I've got everything set up. It's not a big deal for me to go live.
100%. I think it is so funny. I was shooting content for some attorneys on Saturday,
Mhm.
and these guys are at the top, right? I mean, these guys are making close to 8 figures in revenue, attorneys that are like high profile. They get in front of a camera and they clam up. They clam up. And I'm like, this is interesting. This is very interesting.
Harry Barrett.
Right, because of the head trash that everybody carries around with them, that it's all a status symbol.
Mhm.
Even more so. And I was like, I told Will this too. I was like, I think our sales approach has been like, yeah, with the podcast, you can increase revenue and blah, 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 blah. But a lot of these guys don't really care too much about the revenue. They do, but I think a lot more people are more concerned with their status and how they look and how they put themselves out there and how it increases their coolness and how it increases their social currency more than anything else, which
that's
I
more
thought was
tangible
really-
to them.
Yeah, which I
It's
thought
not
was
like we do SEO for a lot of law firms, but the stickiness is like social media or PR or things that they can see, feel, and touch versus like what actually is probably driving the revenue for them, because it's just not sexy.
right. And people want to feel like
Important.
people respect them, which is why I think one of the things that I'm just noticing about our sales process and talking to these like really high profile attorneys
Mhm.
is that their sticking points are they don't want to look stupid.
Yep.
Right? Nobody wants to look stupid. Nobody wants to be judged. And so that head trash stops them from moving forward on so many things because of status, right? And they're like, well, I built this status, I built this brand. I am, I'm the top attorney in my city. And you know what I mean? It's like, okay, yeah, well, truth is nobody knows you. You know what I mean? Like literally,
Well,
nobody knows
that's a
you.
good point. I mean, it's easy to be like, just do it. Armando just did it, and you should just do it. And then, they're looking at it from different angles, going, well, I need to do it right, and it's got to be perfect, and it's got to be polished. And
Well, it's the same. It's the same thing with subpoenas, right? Like that's basically what I am. Is I'm a secret weapon for them, to make them look good because they're going to win more cases. Because they 1 out of every 3 subpoenas gets rejected, so they look stupid when they're rejected, whether it's their paralegal or them, to their clients. And I'm like, no, ours is 100% compliant, or you don't pay. So like, why not? Like, but trying to get them like to have that conversation. But you're right. It's playing to that ego of them in their business, and they don't. I mean, really, if you look behind most attorneys, they have no idea what they're doing in the business side of it, right? Like they're just like and they don't even know all the law either. Like they don't want to be exposed, you know. That's what
Yeah. But here's
Yeah.
the beautiful thing about podcasting is that when you give somebody else the spotlight, and I'm speaking about this at 8-Figure Firm next month, so it's like really fresh on my mind because I'm talking about imposter syndrome and mindset.
Awesome.
The doing creates the confidence, not the other way around. Like I can buy the most expensive bike in the world. I can buy the most expensive helmet in the world. I can buy the most expensive bike outfit, but I've got to ride that bike. Like, period. I've got to ride that bike, right? And I'm not going to be competing at a high level on a bike, right, at first. That's not the point. But I think there's so many people that are like, oh, I see Joe Rogan, I see all these people and blah, 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 blah. And that's what they think that their starting point is going to be. And I'm like, it's not. That's okay, right? Like the mindset needs to be, I'm okay with looking like I don't know what I'm doing at first. And people don't want to do that. But see, on the back end of that, that's where all the riches are. Riches, confidence, happiness, all of these things that you receive as the decision to move forward into that scary thing. When you make that decision and you go in, you get that, right? The confidence comes, right? I mean, look, Abizer could talk about it too. Like I'm so look, man, I'm so proud of what you did to Abizer because like at the very beginning when we were talking about, hey man, you got to go live, you got to do this, you got to do that, and he was just like, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. And
You know, I'm like a coach, right? So like I'm like, holy shit, I'm being coached. So I had to take some of the best. It's a couple things. One of the best things I get out of this is that I'll talk to somebody and then something happened in my life. We'll come up with a solution to some issue they're dealing with. And then the exact same thing will happen in my world, right? Or something similar. And I'll be like, I don't want to deal with it. And I'm like, I just got off the phone with this person. And right? So so it was kind of like that, Armando. I was like, oh shit, I tell people to do all this stuff. I get to take something on myself, right? And then earlier about, looking good and all of that. If I kind of turn that to my space, I would say it's like my head versus my heart, right? I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen that Hall of Fame acceptance speech video that Alan did. Was it last weekend? But I mean, his heart is palpable in the video. Like he's on a video. I'm not even looking at the guy. I'm watching his video, right? And I can feel his heart across through the screen. It's like wow, he's a football player. So you'd think he'd be all stoic and all that, right? And here he is just laying it out there. And it was, I think it's that piece, right? So the more I try to get it right, the more I'm in my head and the more I don't connect with people. It's the exact opposite of people want. And I plugged Armando, he brought on Dean as part of his team. And we've met Dean on this podcast, on this mastermind as well. So a lot of us know him. He was on my podcast and he really breaks it out. Like, he's an acting coach too, right? So you can look at he draws a parallel, like the actors that do well and don't do well, and back to real life, right? And how people act in life. It's a me personally, it was my podcast. Maybe I'm blind
I
to it,
should have him on talking about
but I love
acting.
that. So if you want to take a look at that, you might get some nuggets out of what he says in that podcast too.
Huh.
It's great. I mean, look, it's why I love improv so much, right? And part of my talk is going to be, overcoming imposter syndrome with improv techniques, right? And improv, if you've have you ever done improv? Anybody?
hmm
Okay. I highly recommend it. It's just it's an amazing art form. But what it does for you, it creates this irreverence because you put yourself through such a ridiculous thing, right? That like you're doing zip, zap, zop and mind meld and all of these different goofy, childlike exercises, right? But it activates something inside you where you're like, oh wow, I didn't die, right? Like nobody is like downing me about this. And that for me, it's a muscle, right? Like that you have to continue to work to create this irreverence, right? And as an actor, you had that too, right? Going into these auditions and trying too hard and wanting to get the job. And every time you go in there trying, you don't get it, right? But when you go in there and you're irreverent and you're like, this is me. If you like it, great, hire me. If you don't like it, that's cool too. I'm not for you, and that's totally fine. But because people are so afraid of rejection and they're so afraid of judgment and they're so afraid of like being looked at as, as less than, that it just stops them from doing almost everything, right? And then they're stuck. And then that's where, that's where a Beezer can come in and get you unstuck from a bunch of that stuff. But for me, improv and the techniques that you can use in improv, say yes and first and foremost, right? The reason why I love podcasting is it is such an encapsulating form to create a story together because we're improvising it, right? If I invite Kevin on my podcast, we don't know what we're going to talk about. It's a free form, right? So when Kevin comes on the podcast and we have questions and I'm like, hey, Kevin, so tell me about this and blah, 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 blah. If Kevin says something to me and I'm like, nope, and I'm negating it, where does the podcast go? It goes nowhere, right? But if I'm like, oh, yes, and bop, 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 bop. And then Kevin goes, yes, and bop, 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 bop. So we're saying yes, and that's the first rule of improv, right? Is say yes, and because we can build on that. You never say no, you never negate. Step 2 is say the first thing that comes to your head. And that's super important because a lot of times the first thing that comes to your head is who you are. But we stop, right? And all of the head trash comes on. Maybe it's people, and once again, Abizer can talk about this in great length. But all of the things that we've grown up with and the trauma and all of that, put the mask on, put the mask on, put the mask on, put the mask on. So we're like 15 masks deep, right? And we can't we can't really be who we want to be. And look, I'm not going to say I'm perfect. You know what I mean? Like I still have imposter syndrome when it comes to a lot. As a matter of fact, me speaking at this conference, right, with David Nagel speaking and all of these other people, and I'm on the main stage with these people, has created just a little bit of imposter syndrome for me, right? I'm like, damn. All right, well, I guess I'm getting asked to speak at this event where, where there's these heavy hitters. But then I know, like, okay, it comes back to what I'm actually talking about, which is, and it's so meta, right? Could be like, yes, I'm having imposter syndrome right now on stage with you guys. But technique, and if you have technique and you have craft, you'll create the confidence, right? And this is from a acting teacher that I had a long time ago. He's like a lot of these actors, if they don't have a way to approach the work, then they don't have the confidence in themselves to be free enough to create a character, right? Whether you're doing Stella Adler, whether Uta Hagen or Stanislavski or whatever acting method that you go with, if there's no craft behind it and you don't step behind the work, that's where the confidence is created in the continuing of the development of that talent, right? Kevin, the first time you did a podcast to now, how many podcasts have you done?
All combined, I don't know, maybe 1,000 or more.
So, you know what I mean? So like think about your first podcast to now, right? And
Dude, I
what
remember listening to it going, dude, is that my voice? Like, the
right.
hell is
Like,
that?
you know what I mean? But people don't want to make that first step. And I'm reading this book right now, The Talent Code, which is really amazing book, but it talks about the myelin wrapping around your circuits that's created after doing something over and over and over and over and over again. That's what creates the talent, right? It's the constant practice, constant doing that creates the master, right? 10,000 hours, that sort of deal. So what I'm proposing is creating a workflow of improv technique that you can use to exercise the muscle of getting over imposter syndrome, right? That's what I'm proposing and how you can do this, right? So saying yes and saying the first thing that comes to your head. And number 3, making your partner look like they're a rock star, right? Which is why, and I didn't even realize how like all of this stuff just kind of meshed together and married itself so well because of the improv and because of podcasting. And I'm like, wow, what a great marriage, right? Because I'm doing the improv techniques in the podcast setting and we're building a story at the same time together, right? I'm saying yes and I'm making them look like a rock star. I'm saying the first thing that comes to my head and we're building a story together, which is why for me podcasting checks all of the boxes, right? I know I come on here every week and I talk about how podcasting is such a great tool to connect with people and increase revenue and blah, 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 blah. It does all that, right? No worries, Abizer. And I talk about that all the time. But what I really don't talk about, which is such a understated byproduct of creating a podcast, is just the confidence that you build and this irreverence that you get just building story, right? And understanding that you're on tape or on camera and that you're just okay being who you are and creating this persona. And the more you can get past all of the mental head trash and into the more creative, the better it's going to be, right? Because the conversation's different. Conversations now with me and Kevin would be completely different if we were just launching our podcast, next month.
I will say it definitely it helps to have a more fluid podcast and more open conversation versus like tons of structure and you're just trying to get it all right and my team always goes, "Hey, we want you to add all these like questions and add all this stuff," and I'm like, "We'd like you to collect all this information about these law firms so we can do." And I'm like, "No, like it's just not how I'm gonna do it."
It just doesn't work that way, right?
There is a happy medium. I will say though, I have found myself sometimes just winging it, right? Like just getting on there. And so for me personally, I think they're not preparing too much because I really, Armando, I really agree with you on the whole being spontaneous, because I mean, there was a guy that I was at an event a couple years ago. The lights went out in the hotel, and he was probably the most masterful, spontaneous. Like, I mean, he just immediately went into, hey, let's make the best of this. You know what I mean? And only the emergency lights were on. He had a room of 300 people, and it was the most amazing discussion that we had. But he was able to shift like that because he's worked that muscle of being spontaneous. And that's the reason why I don't do a lot of prep before I get on. And there's a gal that I was on her podcast where she doesn't even want to talk to you before you. Now, I talked to her before our podcast, but she specifically says, I don't want to know anything about you. I don't want to know what business you're in. We're just going to get on and we're going to go. And I thought, man, that is like, I don't know about you guys, but being an interviewer, I've learned to listen more and to like what is the listener wanting to know about that person? And I'm definitely not perfect at it, but that's what I use podcasting to, is to help me be able to shift in any moment. Like if I don't care where it goes, I mean, I do overall idea, but I don't like putting structure to it. I like it just to go where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Same.
And I
Yeah,
learned
if I
a
could
lot.
If you
add-
get to a place where you're generally interested
Yeah,
and you're literally just a one-on-one conversation, you're interested as if you're the audience and you're like,
exactly.
wait, do what? How did you do that? And then
Yeah. Tell me more
there's
about that.
it's just so easy from there. It's like, because you're like, oh, what happened after that? You're interested. And then
But there,
the
but
audience
do you
is going
find,
along with the same interest, you know?
do you guys find you need a little bit of like people would tell me their stories before the show, and I'm like, no, I don't want to hear it. Like okay, you have that story, but I don't want to hear it now because I want to be the first time listener
Yeah.
to that to
Yeah,
that.
sometimes I get guests that want to, like, we haven't hit record yet, and they're like starting to tell me, like, hey, hold
I'm
it.
like, whoa,
hold
hold
that right
on,
there.
don't,
Yeah.
because then they won't tell it live because they're like, well, I've already told you this. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that spontaneity, like, just to add maybe another dimension to it.
yeah.
Again, being my head or being my heart, right? And I think somebody, Armando or somebody said about, I think Armando, you said it, being there for the other person, right? Hosting that other person. So if I'm in that head, if I'm in with the other person, then I'm not thinking about myself so much. So I'm not so much in my head, I'm more in my heart, right? And I'm just holding that person in my heart for this conversation. And so I think the spontaneity you talk about and all of that we just talked about, I think potentially one more way of looking at it is coming from my heart, right? If my heart's in it, then I'm laughing a lot, and I'm connecting a lot, I'm more connected. All those, and the spontaneity comes from that for me, potentially. So I don't have to work at being spontaneous. I'm just, Becky's with me. Let's hang out with her for a minute, right? And just enjoy her. As I'm enjoying
Yeah.
Becky's conversation, spontaneity arises from there, potentially.
100%.
And people
I
get
gotta
weird
jump,
when
but
they're on the live.
I think it helps with the guests too. Like, I get lawyers all the time. They're like trying to over prepare. And what do I do when I show up? Because I do my pre calls. And I'm like, listen, it's super easy. Just like we're talking right now.
Yep. No
And
one's
then they
listening.
show up more relaxed. And we had that pre talk. And, and the coolest thing is when you get someone to go, man, that was really fun and easy. And they'll leave like a review for my agency. And it talks about something similar like that. It was awesome interview, easy, blah, blah. And so that's what I want to continue to hear feedback, is that Kevin made it easy and it was enjoyable and I had fun. And then they actually want to see the episode and share it after the fact as well.
Which makes it so much easier to do business. And
Do
it's
you guys,
not, it's,
do you guys
it's
ask for referrals after you just reminded me, like, hey, you've had this experience. Who else do you think would be a good one to interview?
100%.
Yeah.
And review.
Yeah.
I get a review. I think I'm about almost 100% in the last month or so of guests to 5-star review on my agency. And like John Barry and Barry Law, like some really heavy hitters, like just putting in some really good stuff. Like
Is that on
it's
Google
just,
review though?
there's a
GMB,
Google
yeah.
reviews. So
Do you
within
have
a minute or
page?
two, I get an email from me that's like, that was awesome. Can you leave me a review? And then they just do it right there.
Yep.
Then a referral
recommend it.
comes right after that.
Highly recommend it.
Can I
Well,
share
I
my
can't
screen?
get Google. I've tried a couple times to get Google to do a business thing, and I can't get it through. I can't get it figured out. It's not. Yeah, that's something I've got to do.
Check this out. This happens all the time. And this is the coolest thing. I don't know if you can see.
I can see it.
So this is a law firm. She's starting a new firm. This is not an ideal client for me, but I'm meeting with her on Friday. But I just had 2 personal injury lawyers out of San Francisco that just signed $7,000 a month with almost the same, thing.
Yeah.
That basically booked a sales meeting with me. I don't even talk about necessarily what Array does, or
Yeah.
it's not even really mentioned often. It's not like an ad or nothing like that. So, but anyway, getting stuff like that, it's like, hey, I'll listen to the podcast.
And a lot of these people, they're going to do their research.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask them to be on the podcast, you better believe they're Googling your name, they're Googling your business, they're seeing what you're doing, who else has been on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
like, they're doing the work.
A lot of times here, I do this, Armando. So instead of going, they're like, hey, like I'll just message people. Right now we got like 5 or 6 outreaches to John Morgan, to get him on the podcast. And so, but for
Nice.
anybody, I'll say, hey, Armando, I host a legal podcast for business owners. Let me know if you're interested to be a guest. And I don't say anything else. And then if they respond, then we'll say, okay, here's more about it and blah, blah, blah. But I'll tell them to just Google the Managing Partners podcast instead of here's a link to like YouTube or Spotify or whatever. Just Google it
Right.
because man, it pulls up all kinds of shit, videos, reviews, all this stuff. So it just shows that the show is established much more than like if I sent them Apple Podcast link.
Yeah.
It just looks.
Yeah,
like
I'm definitely not there yet. 'Cause nothing's showing up on anything of the Google. I'm like,
But that's
not
why you
even
got to
any-
start. That's why you got to put the stuff out.
I know. Yeah. And
if
I
you don't
need
have
to get
quantity and
SEO.
time, then you don't have anything, right? So
I mean, I'm big on social medias and all of that, all of the different channels, but Becky Sampson, even you'll find me all over the place, Google, but the only subpoena, it's the beginning stages. You just got to get out. I need to get out.
Well, we're gonna
you
wrap
send me a
this.
friend request on Facebook, but you have too many friends, and I can't accept your request.
It's been that way for 15 years, by the way. I can't stand, I have to keep deleting people. I've tried moving them over to a group page and it never works. So I'm always at that 5,000. I've had multiple, got 900 requests and I don't like that about Facebook.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I'll be your
They should at
friend,
least
though,
up it.
Kevin. Like, let me delete. I'll bring you in.
So I'm a roll out, but next week I'm doing the 5-day challenge. I don't know if you guys are going to be around or not, but I'll add you to that if you guys want to. Just email me.
I'm in it in the distribution and all that stuff. Sorry being late. I was actually on a call with Lee Rudin. Lee?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's crushing it, his content. But
I have a question. Did you change the time again? Because it was normally later.
Are you talking about for the
Tuesday.
5-day challenge?
No,